Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with today's presentation. Today's topic is SmartSights software extends GE industrial applications. Just to introduce the panelists here today, my name is David Nolan. I'm the Senior Applications Engineer at SmartSights, and I'm joined by my colleague, Stephen Rivas, who is the Product Manager of Win911.
Hello.
So to get started, we'll go over today's agenda. We'll talk about SmartSights core capabilities, our connectivity and history with GE, how our solutions integrate with GE software. We'll talk about the SmartSights bundle, which is sort of a newer extension to our two core capabilities. And then we'll transition some hands-on. Mr. Rivas will give you a brief demonstration of Win911 using GE alarm data, and I'll give a demonstration of Excel Reporter and the SmartSights bundle. And of course, we'll take a break at the end to answer any questions as they come up. And on that note, if anyone does have any questions during the presentation, just use the questions tab inside of the GoToWebinar menu. So to kick things off, we'll talk about SmartSights core capabilities. We have sort of two areas of capability against GE and other industrial data systems. One of our capabilities is remote notifications. This is our Win911 product, and it works by monitoring an in-plant alarm and control system, such as an iFix or Simplicity system in the GE world, and it sort of takes the constant feed of alarm and event data coming out of that system, and it intelligently routes those alarms, those notifications to the right people at the right time by various methods like text, voice, email, and our smart device mobile app. And the system does this by being aware of information about the people involved in your organization. It knows what their work schedules are when they're on and off call, and it knows the relationship between them, so the system can call one person and escalate to another in the event that they don't answer. So the idea of this capability is to take the alarms and events that are being generated by a GE, iFix, or Simplicity system and target them more directly to specific people at specific times, so you can improve your response to alarms and your visibility into them. Our other core area is industrial process reporting. This is our Excel Reporter product. Reporting can mean different things in different industries or verticals, but typically process reports are generated for the purpose of complying with government regulations, monitoring operations, quality control, and internal process auditing. And one example of an industrial process report will be something like in water treatment, where in this case, this is a Massachusetts state DEP drinking water compliance form. All plant operators in the state are required to submit this to the state government on a monthly basis. And the information included in this report are things like residual chemical levels that are regulated by the EPA, turbidity information on the cleanliness of the water, and all this information can be collected from a GE historian or Simplicity historian, and Excel Reporter can automatically produce this government regulatory report, saving the plant operators time and resources and producing the report in a consistent and automated way. And there are all kinds of other examples of where process reports are used in industry. Some pertinent to today's discussion might be, say, in food and beverage, for example. There are typically discrete processes around mixing or pasteurizing or the cleaning of the equipment. And these processes are regulated in terms of the thresholds of temperatures and chemicals and things like that. And so they must be tracked, right, for the purpose of an audit by either internally or by the FDA. Overall equipment effectiveness is something that's used in many types of manufacturing, just as sort of a standardized metric to determine the efficiency and the output of a process. Oil and gas, they're typically large, complicated alarm systems that require dedicated statistical analysis to determine the rationalization or the effectiveness of those systems. And we won't really go into detail on every single one of these. Just wanted to kind of point out a few pertinent to the industries described in the abstract for today's webinar. And the point of this slide really just being that the product can be flexible enough to be used in any industry for any type of automated reporting or analysis. So why would people choose SmartSights, right? There's tons of other companies out there that are working in the area of alarm notifications, reports, data analysis. SmartSights has had decades of partnership with GE Digital, and so we have a lot of experience working with controllers, with the iFix HMI, with Simplicity, and the historian interfaces behind these HMI SCADA products to deliver reports and notifications automatically. And provide many different ways for people to access critical information about their process, either on premise by receiving automated notifications or report emails, or by interacting with our smart device mobile app, the Win911 app. So how are SmartSights software products integrated with GE systems? Right, so going back to the core capabilities here, notifications and reports. On the notification side, we can think of the alarm system available inside of an iFix or a Simplicity system as sort of a fire hose of alarm event information, right? That's coming out of the plant or the connected enterprise. And the Win911 notification product basically taps into this fire hose and intelligently routes the notifications based on specific logic, right? So we can detect if an alarm is occurring in a specific process area or above or below a certain severity threshold. We can trigger a call out list, right? We can call one operator, and if they don't answer, we can call the next. We can also take branching logic, based on how long the alarm has been active. The idea here is to, again, take that sort of monolithic feed information and route it to specific people at specific times, using alarm subscriptions and using logic, right, that defines what alarm goes to what person and by what method. And on that note, right, you have to have a method to deliver this notification to somebody, and the product can deliver notifications by voice, email, SMS, or mobile app. So think of receiving a phone call, right, that tells you verbally that an alarm is happening, receiving an email or SMS, which is more of a textual representation of that alarm, or seeing the alarm through the mobile app, which you see pictured over here to the right, which is more of a live interactive, collaborative way to receive alarms. Through any of these interfaces, the software also supports acknowledgement and reports and data and analysis. And the way that's delivered basically just depends on how you're receiving the notification. Right? So if you're receiving a voice call, right, this is a press a button to acknowledge the alarm, or speak into the phone to acknowledge an alarm type of an interaction. With SMS, right, it's a reply back to that text message to acknowledge the alarm, to request some data points to be resent to you as a subsequent message. With email and the mobile app, we have more sophisticated ways of delivering reports that can include charts, graphs, analysis, process metrics, things that really give a deeper understanding of the context around the alarm and sort of assist responders in addressing it. On the reporting side, it's a similar workflow. We connect into the in-plant data sources, right? This would be live data, historians, HMI data logs, whether that be GE products or any other SCADA vendors or open standards like OPC and OLEDB. And once the user is connected up to a data source or to data sources, they can design report templates, right? And that's done in this product as workbooks. Now, there's a couple dozen out-of-box templates that can be used for things like specific industry verticals or general tabular chart type reports. Users can also design reports in a standalone environment or using an Excel add-in. The underlying file behind the report template is an Excel workbook file in either case. The functionality using this standalone or using Excel is the same. It's a design choice for the user based on maybe if they're an Excel power user, they really love Excel, or they really don't want to license Excel on the system where they're designing their reports. The functionality is the same in either case, and the product does not require Excel to achieve any functionality. Once you've designed a template, right, you can map data onto it, and the system has powerful analytical calculation engine. So we can look at the raw data being produced in a historian and turn it into metrics, uptime, downtime, min, max, average, totals, deltas, all kinds of different options in terms of producing calculations, slicing them by time, applying filters to them. And so this is really within an area of power of the product in that we're not just, again, feeding you the fire hose of data coming out of the historian, we're turning it into actual information and returning that in the report. Once you design the report and the data it's going to return, you can use that template to generate reports right on time, on event. So think of generating something automatically at the end of the shift, end of the day, end of the week or month, or generating a report based on a process event like a batch starting or stopping, or an alarm occurring. You can also access reports on demand, locally on the desktop where the product's installed, via the local network through thick Windows desktop clients or browser clients, or through our Win911 mobile app, on any device, anywhere in the world. We also distribute reports, right, passively, automatically. We can email them as workbooks or PDF. We can export metrics into a database. We can make process metrics from your historian available by REST APIs. They can be connected up to business systems. Really, the possibilities are pretty limitless here in terms of how this product is able to interface with your process data, turn it into actual metrics, and deliver those to the people or systems that need to see them through all different kinds of ways. So why would we bundle these two things together? I think you can think of a couple different examples of how the capabilities of notifications and reports are useful just sort of separately in the same application, right? In manufacturing, right? You might have critical alarms that need to be delivered to groups of people beyond just those sitting in front of the HMI. In that same manufacturing system, you might have FDA or EPA compliance reports, right, for product quality or for emissions. And so you can see, in these different manufacturing plants, why users might need notifications. They might also need process reports. In water treatment, right, you might not have 24/7 shift covered at the plant, so people need to be able to receive notifications remotely, right, in the middle of the night to be able to respond to alarms. They're also filing compliance reports with their state environmental government agency. So there's all different kinds of ways where we can think of these things can be used. They can be used sort of in the same application, but independently from each other. But there are also some interesting capabilities and use cases around bundling these two functions together, right? Notifications and data to go along with them, for example. So that's what the SmartSights bundle is really all about. It's about serving the critical stakeholders in your process, right? The maintenance techs, the operators, the engineers, the supervisors. These people all need to consume information related to the industrial process, but it's different kinds of information. It's delivered at different times and in different ways. All right, so people who are operators or maintenance techs responding to an alarm, they need to be able to get that notification wherever they are, right? Such as on their smartphone. They need to know that the alarm is happening. And they might also need to know diagnostic data, right, behind the alarm. What's going on in the process? What's actually being run right now? What are the key parameters? What's going out of tolerance? What's the underlying information behind why that's happening? This helps them understand the alarm, helps them respond to it more quickly and more effectively. Now, sitting behind that same process, right, there might be quality control engineers or external regulators, right? They need to see a detailed breakdown of everything that's happening in that process, right? Not just the few minutes of time, say, on a few KPIs around an alarm. They need to know everything. They need to know all the trends, all the key KPIs, all the alarm and event data, all the set point changes being performed by the operators in the HMI. And so they can see a different view, right, of the same process, a detailed auditing type view, these engineers, these regulatory agencies. And then a third different perspective that we can deliver is a high level summary, right, of everything that's going on in all the processes in the plant, with a red light, green light, right, sort of status indicator. Think of this like a more data-centric type of a dashboard than what you get directly within the HMI, for example, right? This would be used by people like system administrators, production supervisors, plant managers, and these people need to see a holistic process summary that they can also drill down into detail from. So from this supervisor's view, they can also drill back down into the detailed view of the process. And so fundamentally, this is what the bundle is about. It's about taking the process information that our notification and reporting tools are monitoring and sort of slicing it and refactoring it into different ways to serve the different stakeholders that use the products better. So what are some of the concepts behind actually implementing this in the bundle, right? At the core of all this, what we're doing is relating alarms to process data. So there's, on the reporting side, we think of this as when an alarm occurs, what is the information that a responder would want to know to help them, to give them clues, to give them context. And these can be really basic things like trends leading up to the time of the alarm, right? When an alarm happens inside of my juice pasteurizer, I want to know the history of the pressures, temperatures, flows, and things going through that asset. So we've got out-of-box templates that can sort of deliver these incident breakdown trend reports. There's also the concept of configurable templates, right? And so this is more of a mindset, more of an approach of designing things again around incident reports. When an alarm occurs, what information would the responder want to know? Thinking about dashboards, right? A high-level summary of the process that determines, a holistic red light, green light, say health, rather than say just looking at what alarms are happening in that process at that time. And there's also the concept of a discrete process event report, right? We kind of talked about this a moment ago, looking at a particular process, right, in detail from when it starts its execution to when it stops its execution, right? When did that process start? What product are we running? What's the status of it? Is it active? Has it been completed? Has it been aborted? What were all the trends and KPIs that occurred during that discrete time frame? So these are sort of the three different areas where there are the three different types of relationships, right, that we kind of have identified at a high level, right? Data around an alarm incident, data indicating the health of the process, detailed monitoring of a discrete event in the process. When we design, say, a dashboard, right, that second use case, all we have to do to make it available to our Win911 mobile app users is just open up the workspace, right? It's a design interface in Win911. We can pick Excel reporter templates from a list, and we can add those into the Win911 configuration. And then all that the user would have to do is open the app, and they can generate that reporter dashboard on demand on their device from anywhere, anytime they want. So that's sort of the most simplistic use case, right? Just an on-demand dashboard. When it comes to, right, the incident response use case, right? We do this by linking a report with an alarm workflow. And then for those in the audience maybe that have used Win911, maybe you've seen the Win911 advanced notification policy designer, but we can think of this as a flow chart of what's happening when SmartSights software is detecting that an alarm has happened in your iFix or your Simplicity system, and how it's responding to it. So we can check things like when the alarm is happening. Is it happening in a certain work schedule? Is it happening in a certain process area? If it is, we can send an analysis, a diagnostic report, right, related to that process area to somebody. If it's happening outside of these conditions, or we can take a different action, we can notify somebody else, or we can send a different report. And the idea behind this is that you work reports into the response workflow of an alarm, so you know when you're going to send a report, what report you're going to send, who you're going to send it to, and how you're going to send it to them, either by the mobile app or by email. So what this actually looks like, right, when somebody's getting one of these notifications or looking at these dashboards, where you can see the mobile app on the right here in this slide. This is the Android phone app, so it might look a little different if you use it on a tablet or use it on an iPhone, but all the features that we're seeing here are in every version of the app. And so while you can see, the feed of alarms, right, that are coming out of the system through this app, you can also see reports. Right? These are the reports that you've made available to your Win911 mobile users. So you just can open their app, they can pick one, or they can see what's happening maybe inside of the batch process that's going on. They can see a dashboard, right, related to maybe the building entity system or other sort of plant managerial level data sets. They can again look at detail right behind discrete processes that are happening. Are we passing? Are we failing? Where are concern areas? These are things, right, that you can't convey with just a notification itself. A notification can tell you that this process is happening. A report can tell you the details about what's happening. Is it happening? Is the process working well? Is it not working? Where are the areas of concern? That kind of thing. And finally, we can also look at information, say, on the alarm system itself. From a manager's perspective, are we experiencing a high volume of alarms overall in certain areas? Are people not responding to alarms? That kind of alarm management information can be seen in the app as well. And if users have multiple Win911 sites, they can see reports from all of the sites right inside one feed in their app. So the third perspective here we deliver in the bundle, right, is the high-level control room summary. And this happens by taking all the detail that we have, say in a report document, and sort of refactoring it or slicing it right into the most critical need to know information, right? So if somebody was looking at this mixer production cycle at a glance, they really wouldn't want to be staring at all the tabular data every time an operator changed a setting or something like that in the process. What they'd want to know is what's happening, what process are we running? Is it active? Have we stopped it for some reason? What are the key trends going on in that process, right? If it's related to tanks, we can see tank levels. And what's the result of the process, right? If we're measuring how much material we've made, we just want to see a clear indication of, is that on target or is it off target? So the control room summary, right, is about breaking a report down into sort of widgets or sub-reports, if you will. And these widgets can then be tiled and displayed inside of Win911's control center. So we can see, for example, what's going on in that mixer process at the same time as seeing how many total alarms we have active and acknowledged right now. We could see other widgets related to different production lines or different processes. This sort of gives, that supervisor, that manager, just a high level, at a glance, indication of the health of their processes, using analytics, using charts, right? Using information rather than just a graphical representation that you would get on the HMI. So those are sort of the three critical areas, right, that we're sort of working on with the bundle: enhancing alarm response, enhancing detailed process auditing, and enhancing a supervisor type of view of that process. In terms of benefits for existing users, right, there may be people out there who are using Win911, or they're using Excel Reporter, but they haven't used the other respective product, I guess, if you will. And so we can also kind of look at the bundle as sort of delivering benefits, right, to these existing users. And so for Win911 users, right, it's sort of all the things we just talked about, right? We're sort of enhancing their ability to understand their process, either related, when a specific alarm occurs or just overall. For Excel Reporter users, we're expanding the access to reports and dashboards, right? In the past, Excel Reporter is fundamentally an on-prem product. It's got, reporting and dashboarding clients that run over the network where it's installed. You can automatically push reports as emails, but in terms of being able to get at on-demand dashboards, live interactive data, by going to the bundle, Excel Reporter users can do that now from anywhere in the world using their iPhone, using their iPad. So that's a big capability that they definitely didn't have before. Again, altogether, SmartSights is trying to deliver sort of a single solution for process monitoring, analysis, compliance, and so on, by combining these two products, Win911 and Excel Reporter, into this SmartSights bundle. In terms of a technical sort of back end, we'll be providing an installer that will manage all of this for you. But for people who do use the products, just to give you an idea of sort of how they're being glued together, if you will, to use the bundle, Win911 users would have to have 2024 or later email or mobile gateway installed, reporting module installed. Right? We can't send reports without reporting module, and we can't send them anywhere if we don't have email or mobile connectivity. Excel Reporter just needs to have the distributed installation, right? The same interface that allows our remote clients to run over the network allows Win911 to connect. So it's an Excel Reporter 16 distributed installation. And you can have these things installed on the same system, or you can have Excel Reporter and Win911 on separate nodes on the network. There just will be an HTTP connection between them. Now let's just talk briefly about SmartSights for alarm management. We kind of talked about how it sits in different processes, right? Water treatment, food and beverage. But the bundle can also be used, right, as sort of an alarm management, alarm rationalization tool in general in itself, in any industry, right? But we typically see this commonly in industries that have large, complex alarm systems, like chemical plants or oil and gas, those kinds of things. And so in in saying the term, alarm rationalization, alarm management, what are we talking about? And our product is based on the IS 18.2 standard. This is sort of a standardized 7-step continuous improvement process. It's recognized by OSHA, it's recognized by the insurance industry. And we won't get into too much detail on this. We do have a webinar on this topic if people are interested in learning more. But we can think of this ISA 18.2 framework as just sort of a tool we use to make sure our alarm system is working safely and effectively. It works by identifying a philosophy about why we need an alarm or different alarms in our industrial process, right? What are we trying to convey that's abnormal? What's the condition in the control system that's going to detect that this problem is happening? How is the operator going to respond to it? Once they're actually running this system and seeing and responding to alarms, is it working, right? Are they getting flooded with bad information? Do they not understand what they have to do? Are they turning the system off because it's distracting them? Are any of these kind of common problems happening? If they are, right, they can be detected. You can advise how to improve the system, and you make it better, you operate it, you get safer, you get more efficient. SmartSights technology fits into this in 2 different places. The Win 911 notification tool, right, is part of the implementation. As part of the philosophy, design, rationalization, we want to know what conditions do we need to convey remotely by a phone call, by an app push notification. And then the Excel reporter side of this works in monitoring and assessment, right? Once we run the system, are we having these kinds of problems? Where are they occurring? Where can we advise people to make changes, re-implement, redesign, run again, and see if we're actually improving? So we fit in sort of 2 different areas of this sort of process. Some examples of where we see this in the product. We have live monitoring in Win 911. This will tell you if any of those ISA-defined problems are happening: floods, chattering, stale alarms, slow acknowledgement. Excel reporter tells you in the long-term detailed breakdown analysis of the 12 ISA KPIs and whether or not they're improving over time. Well, that being said, I think that concludes the overview portion of today's workshop here. I'm going to change gears and I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Rivas here, and he's going to give us a brief live demonstration of Win 911 using GE alarm data.
Thank you, Dave. Let me get my screen going for you guys. There we go. You should be able to see my iFix system. Is that right, David?
Yep, we can see it.
All right, great. All right, so what I wanted to do is take some time to show you guys a quick demonstration of how the integration between Win 911 and iFix functions. I'm using a really simple application that I worked up in iFix just to create an alarm, so we could just focus on what it is that Win 911 does. So you can see here, I've just got a summary. I've got a button at the bottom that will turn an alarm on and off. And like I said, I just want to run through the integration process of Win 911 and iFix so you guys can see how it's done. So what we'll do is we'll trigger an alarm over an iFix. It's a simple digital alarm, but it can be, I mean, we support all the different alarm types from iFix. I'm just using a digital alarm, for example. You can see as soon as I hit that button, Win 911 receives that. It pops up in our control center, and you can see that alarm, those alarm details. But in addition to that, if we jump over to my cell phone, you can see that alarm pops into my phone as well as a push notification, and I can pull that up and view it in our Win 911 mobile app. It'll show us all the details here, and since it's a new alarm, you can see I have the option to acknowledge the alarm. As soon as I hit acknowledge, it will acknowledge back into my Win 911 system, and it will pass all the way back into iFix. So you can see it got acknowledged here. There are some other things you can do within the mobile app within this context of the alarm. One, you can see past alarm state updates here. You can see everything that has occurred. We can jump over to this chat section, and if you are sending alarms to other people within your system, you can chat with your coworkers. Send them a message. If they receive this alarm update, then they would also start receiving these chat messages. You can also see who on your team has received or was sent the alarm notification. In this case, I'm the only one on this team or this notification policy, so that's all that is there. But if I tap on that eyeball there, you can see you can track the history of when the notification was sent, when it was acknowledged, and the last time I looked at it. So if there were some other people on the list and you wanted to see if they ever saw the alarm, you could determine whether they have or have not seen it from this tab. All right, so let's just walk through the setup of this. So this is just a simple digital alarm. The first thing you would need to do in Win911, this is Win911 Workspace, this is where you do a majority of your configuration. You need to start with a contact. So I've created a contact for myself called Steven here. Inside of it, you can see I've got a mobile contact. It's just you can choose any email address you'd like. It could be a Gmail address, it could be your work email address, it doesn't matter. Whatever you type in there, they'll be invited to access the app. And you can put in different details about what they can do, like whether they can acknowledge alarm, what their schedule is. A schedule is when someone is going to receive notifications. If they're off schedule, then obviously they won't receive notifications during their off period. You can also control which alarms they request and whether they have access to our Win911 mobile workspace, which is being able to edit notification policies and schedules from the app. And I'll show you, we'll jump back to the app and I'll show you guys that later. So once you have a contact defined, then you can jump over to your notification policies. Notification policies are essentially the call out list of who you're going to notify. David did show you guys a cool example of a workflow. This is what I'm going to show you is just a more simple basic notification policy, which is just a call out list. You're putting people in the order that you want them to be notified. You give it a name. You've got a list. I've only got one person in here at the moment. If I click add connection, all the different contacts that are in the system can be selected and put into the list. You can move them around, change their retries and delays, but delay between connections and so on. You can also choose which notifications you actually are interested in sending. So some customers only want to send the initial update, then you can just check that, and that when that alarm gets triggered, you'll receive that notification. But when it changes state to inactive or gets acknowledged and you maybe you don't want to receive that notification, well, you can turn those off. I'm not going to change any of those settings here, so we can jump back to the app later. So once you have your notification policy, then you have to bring the alarms into your system. And how Win911 works is we tie into iFix with their EDA toolkit, so we can read the database, and we also receive alarms through an alarm queue. That when alarms get triggered in iFix, iFix puts it in an alarm queue. Win911 reads that off, and that's how it knows when there are new alarm updates. So you need to configure that. There's a little learn more button up here to tell you how to do that. And I don't know if we can jump over to, well, we can show that later, but you just need to tell iFix to launch that queue for you and to launch the Win911 runtime, which is like a bridge service that allows Win911 to communicate with iFix. Once you've got that set up, you just need to put in a few more details. If you're running, if your iFix is using security mode, you can turn that on, put in the username and password for that user. If you're not using security, like I am right now, then you just leave it to no security. If you don't like to receive comm alarms or range alarms, sometimes they can flood your system and you don't want to send them out to operators. Well, we've added options so that you can just ignore those. So a lot of our customers don't want to flood. When there's a comm issue, that usually generates a huge flood of alarms, and our customers don't always want to send those out. So if you don't want comm alarms, then you can check that box, and we will know, we won't send those to your operators. All right, now there's two ways to actually tell Win911 which alarms that you're interested in. The first one is with the subscription. A subscription allows you to filter the alarms that are coming into Win911. Just imagine every alarm that is in iFix is coming to Win911, and now you can filter those out of which of those alarms that you're interested in. And you can filter on two different criteria. What is the name of the block, or what area does it belong to? So if you have, for example, if you've got a bunch of blocks and you assign it to an area, maybe you call the area Win911. Well, you can that's how you can determine which alarms will go to Win911. You have a block that you want to have a call out for. You assign it to an area called Win911. You have Win911 filtering on that area, and boom, automatically Win9's going to start picking up that alarm and sending it out to whatever notification policy you set it to. We were using call out list earlier, so we would use call out list. The alternative is to use a block name. Block name, if you have your alarms set up in a certain way, organized by block name, then you can create different subscriptions that look at that name and direct those alarms to a certain notification policy. You can add multiple subscriptions, so you can say all the blocks that have this within their name, they go to this notification policy. All the blocks that have something else can go to another notification policy. So you can create several subscriptions to direct the alarms to different notification policies or different call out lists. So you've got a few options there. So that's how you can do a subscription. If you don't want to do subscriptions, you can still import individual blocks. And that's what I've done here. Come on, scroll down. There we go. So that one digital alarm that we were testing with, I imported that. The import process is pretty simple. You go to import blocks, and if you are connected to an iFix system with multiple nodes, you can filter down which node you actually want to import from. The reason that's important is if you are on a system that's got 5 or 6 different clients, if you don't specify which client or which node you're interested in, we're going to pull the blocks from all of them. In this case, we've only got one client on here, which is a standalone system called Fix. So we're going to pull the blocks in from this node, and you can also grab additional details. But when you turn these on, it really slows down the import process. So only turn these on if you really need to, because the EDA toolkit will really slow down when you start adding more and more details that you're pulling back if you've got a ton of different blocks in there. In this case, we've only got a few. Well, in this case, we don't have any blocks left to import because we've already imported that digital alarm. So there's nothing to import here, but you just select your block here and assign it to Win911. And then you would get this digital alarm description here. You can also change the description if you want to specify a different description for that tag than what iFix provides. If you want to override it, you can do so here. I'm just going to leave it on use iFix setting and actually make any other changes. Save the source, and now we're connected to iFix. Well, we already were, and now we're pulling the blocks out, and that's all you have to do to connect to it. We'll just jump back into the mobile app real quick so I can show you a few other things. All right, so in the mobile app, you have some other options here. One, you can look at your alarm history. If you want to see past alarms that came to you, you can go to your alarm history, choose a date and a time span and some other conditions, and then send that request in, and then it will show you the alarms that were in the system. You can tap on them and see the alarm state updates for those particular alarms that came through. You can also request reports. David showed some of the reports from Excel Reporter that Win911 can now make available to you from the mobile app anywhere in the world. So in this case, we've got this alarm performance dashboard, which is a built-in report from Excel Reporter. So when you just tap on it, Win911's going to go request that report right then, and then it's going to show it to you. You can zoom in, move around. You can click that share button on the top right and send it out as a PDF to any of your colleagues. You can also have simple reports which just simply show you the value of iFix tags. In this case, we only have that one tag in here, so it's going to go read it, tell us what the value is, and if you had multiple tags, you can see those in there as well. So also from the mobile app, you can change your notification policy. So we've got that call out list that we saw earlier. I'm the only one in it right now. If I wanted to add someone else from the phone without having to access the computer, then I can do that right here in the app. I can move people around if I need to as well, and change the call out order. So you can turn this on and off from the main Win911 configuration, but you can control it here from the phone. You can also control your connection details. So let's say I wanted to change my schedule for my particular connection from always to never. Maybe that's how you control who is going to receive alarms on your system, just by switching the schedules around, or you can do that from the phone as well. You can also add and remove different roles to your connections too. If you, I'm not going to go into the details of roles and workflows and all that. There are other webinars that I would suggest that you check out that goes more in depth about how advanced notification policies work and what they can do for you. All right, so that's the mobile app. I just wanted to show you that. We've also got something new. If you haven't been keeping up with what we've been releasing lately, we've got a new tool called Control Center. We used to have something called Win911 Log Viewer, and that's how you would see the alarms that are in your system. Well, that log viewer was just reading out of a SQL database. It wasn't very efficient. It was kind of slow, so we totally rebuilt that, and we turned it into Control Center, added a bunch of other features. First, you'll notice that if you're familiar with Win911, we've added new columns in here, so you can see your descriptions and all these other alarm details that weren't available before. You can just turn them on or off as needed. This is that alarm that we triggered earlier. You can see it's just reflecting what's going on in the system at any given moment. You can acknowledge alarms from here, and it will acknowledge back in iFix. I'm not going to talk too much about the dashboards here, but this is the dashboard that David was showing earlier. He will show you a little bit more about that later. Here are the same historical logs that you can pull up from on your phone. So you can see these are the alarms that were generated in the system earlier. Well, you can also pull these up on your mobile app, but this is them in the Control Center. So you set your time range. You can view those alarms. You can see a little bit more detail here because you can see who the alarm was sent to, whether it was successful, who acknowledged it, and some of the notification policy execution as well. That's not available in the phone just yet. We also have a timeline view, which shows you a flat view. If you're used to our older application called Win911 Pro or version 7, then this is similar to how that would display this information to you. When your alarms come in, it shows you the notifications that are going out. That's really the main purpose of it. It gives you a flat view of all your alarms and all the notifications going out. We also have an announcer application, which will read out the alarm details when they occur and announce it over the speakers of your computer. You can control which alarms are being read out by telling Win911 which of those notification policies you want to read out. So in this case, this one would read only the alarms that get sent to the call out list. This one is set to notify all, so anything that was sent to that notification policy is going to read out over the speakers. But you can have multiple different subscriptions in case you want to change the message prefix. I think a lot of people just use everything. They'll say all notification policies and it'll read out all the alarms. But if you wanted to get more distinct about which alarms you were reading out, that is an option too for you. And the last thing I think I'll mention here is a bypass. Alarm bypass is a feature that we recently brought back, which lets you bypass an alarm in case you're going through maintenance and you don't want notifications to go out for it. So you select that alarm to bypass, you tell us how long you want to bypass it for, and then we will ignore it for notification. So I went ahead and chose select alarm to bypass. I can choose that iFix alarm that we've been dealing with. Say okay, it wants to know how long you want to bypass it for, and then it will put it in the list. So now whenever this alarm gets triggered, we're not going to send notifications out for it. Once this time expires, then we'll start notifying on it again if it does become active. So this is the Control Center. The last thing I'll mention is that you can run it from anywhere within your network and connect it to your Win911 system. You no longer have the limitation of having to run it on the same machine as Win911. As long as you have network access to your Win911 system, then you can run this tool and connect to it. And you can also connect to multiple different Win911 systems. So if you're managing multiple systems and you want to access it from one single computer, you can add all those systems into one Control Center and view your alarms from there. All right, I'm just gonna took a lot of time here. I'm gonna pass it back over to David so he can run you through some of the Excel reporter features.
Thanks, Rivas. Go back to my screen here. Oh, I think you just need to make me presenter again.
Yeah, think I thought I just switched. Oh, I gotta hit the, always forget to hit the approval thing.
No problem.
There you go.
So now, if you're seeing my screen again here, what we're looking at is it's an iFix HMI. It's one of the packed-in HMIs that came with the recent version of iFix, and there's all different kinds of industries and contexts we can talk about reporting in, but we're just going to talk in the context of this particular system here, which is a simulated beverage manufacturing plant. So it's got different processes running in terms of intake, pasteurization, bottling and packaging, and as all these processes are running and being visualized on the HMI, they're recording alarm data, right? We're triggering alarm conditions when process deviations occur. That's all the stuff that Stephen just showed you in terms of Win 911 notifications. These things are also trending data. We can see a good example of that here on the pasteurization screen, right? Whereas this process is running, we're recording the levels of the tanks, the temperatures, all these things are being historized as well. So we have sort of a couple different ways we can bolt on to this system for reporting and analysis. We can look at a history of the alarms, right? How many are happening over time, what areas they're happening the most in. We can look at the live data, right, for the purpose of triggering information, or we can tell when a process is starting or stopping for the purpose of capturing data. And we can look at all that high resolution tag history as well in terms of, throughout that process, what was the trend on the level or the temperature, the min, max, and average of these variables. So all this source data is being made available by iFix, or could be Simplicity as well. And then our SmartSights software is going to sort of bolt on top of it to analyze what it's doing. Right, and that's where we're going to switch over to Excel Reporter here. And what we're looking at with Excel Reporter here is the Project Explorer. Right, this is the hub of all the different tools you use to install the software. This is the first screen that opens once you install it. And we've got a couple different connections, right? Again, mentioning the live alarm and historical data into that iFix system. So if we take a look at a couple example reports of what Excel Reporter can sort of do with that data, right? We can look at the states of the machines, their output, right? And we can turn that into something like an OEE, right? An effectiveness score for how that process is performing. We can look at that for different areas in the process. We can look at particular production cycles, right? We can look at what batch is being run on a particular asset, when it started, when it stopped, what the key trends are, the key net results of that process are. Again, all the detailed auditing information we kind of described in the slides, right? We can do all this by using the live trigger information in iFix to tell us when this thing is starting and stopping, and then calculating all these trends and metrics from the historian and from the alarm and event database. We can also look at information from the alarm system itself, right? We can see how many alarms are happening, right, in different areas, again, using the alarm history. We can look at a dedicated ISA analysis telling us, where the good and bad areas are in different time frames or different areas of the plant, for example. Right, so there's beyond what the iFix HMI is, or the historian is doing, or we can take that data and turn it into meaningful information, for process optimization, for compliance, for alarm rationalization, and so on. And so how do we do this? How does this actually work? Well, we probably don't have time to go very in depth on it, but I can demonstrate how Excel Reporter, say, interfaces with the GE historian. We've got the ability to create templates in Excel Reporter. Again, we mentioned using the workbook design environment, using the wizard-based tool to get out-of-box templates. And we're just going to create a very basic template so we can kind of take a look at the Lego bricks, as it were, of how we interface with the data and how we put one of these reports together. So I'm just going to do a very basic report here, a tabular report that's going to return some min, max, and average data based on analog tags inside that GE historian. So we'll call this one the GE Juice summary. We're going to use the GE historian data connector. We're going to run this report automatically on a schedule. And we'll pick the tags that we want to include as data in the report. And so we'll go to a live browser in the GE historian here. I'll take a look, say, at analog data. And maybe we want to look at things that have some of those tags we looked at on the HMI screen here. So we can look at the slurry intake, the filling level, maybe do that for two different products here, cherry and orange, for example. And we can pick a heading we want to appear on this report as well. Now we'll pick how we want these metrics to be sliced up by time. And I'm just going to leave this default here, but we'll get hourly, min, max, and average on those levels and temps, put onto daily reports. So think 24 rows of data going down a daily worksheet. We can change this up and do, daily stats on monthly sheets, for example. But we're going to stick with a daily report. And our daily report is going to be collated into a monthly workbook. So think of those worksheets that have the 24 hourly metrics on them. Those will be saved as tabs inside of a monthly workbook. Now, the last piece of this wizard is just telling us that because we're picking a daily report, it's going to run every day. It's going to save these reports as a set of workbook files that we can open in Excel. We can open in Excel Reporter's client, or we can open it in our Excel Reporter's browser client. And view and download from there around the network. If we wanted to enable other specific publishing options in here, we can do that. Say if we wanted to send this thing to a printer, or we wanted to email it to a configurable list of people, we can add these automations into the schedule as well. Once I click finish here, we're going to see a schedule designer pop up. I've got tons of other reports in this project, but the line that was just created based on what we did here was this GE juice summary. And because we have data saved in the historian, we can backfill this report right over a period of time. So say if we look at, for example, the past several days of time here, this will generate that report the same way as if it had come out automatically. And as long as this scheduler is running, right, this report will continue to be produced automatically every day. So if we take a look at what we got, I'll go to the workbook reports menu here. We can look at GE juice summary. And we've got a report with data from the past several days here. Looks like my HMI probably wasn't running for a lot of this time, but for the time that it was running, we've got hourly metrics right on the speed, the juice levels, and for each of those tags, right, we've got min, max, and average every hour over the course of the day. We've got those saved as tabs right inside of this monthly workbook. So as we run this over time, it's very easy to come back and take a look at any past period of time. We're running very, very short on time here, so I'll take a brief look through how this template is put together, and then we'll take a look at how this data can be sort of put into the bundle application as well. So the template itself here is just it's a workbook file, right? We've got some basic headings in here, some tabular formatting based on the tags and the time frame that we picked. It's got a data connection that sort of layers on top of it, right, that has the tags that we picked, just triplicated for the different calculations. So if we wanted to change the tags in here, right, we can open up the same browser we did in the wizard. We can change, add, remove, change the order. We pick a calculation that we want on here, and we can do, standard statistical ones like average, min, max, total, deltas. We can do uptime on a bit, downtime on a bit. We can do state duration, right, so we can tell you how much of that cycle the slurry temperature was above 300 degrees. We can tell you how much of the time it was above 300 degrees while the running bit state of that machine was on. So there's a lot of really, really powerful flexibility that you can apply here that can extract right the meaningful information you're trying to get to behind that raw tag data. And you can do it with just picking things from menus and lists rather than scripting or writing SQL and things like that. But this connection is going to bring back a table of data, right, based on the tags and calculations we picked. And it's just going to layer it over the top of this location in the workbook, right? So it's sort of automatically doing what you would do if you were typing this data out into Excel or getting it by an Excel query or whatever. Now, beyond the data connection, you have a naming convention, right? We saw this in the wizard. It's telling us that every time we run this report, we're going to save it on a tab based on the day of the month, and we're going to save it into workbooks based on the month. So we'll have, a March report with different tabs in it for every day. The first day of April, we'll create an April report and start adding daily tabs into that one. So you have the layout of the report, you have where the data is going, you have the naming convention, and you have the schedule that determines how this thing is going to run automatically, right? So you basically have those three or those four core components that make up a report template. And if we go back just very briefly and look in the Excel Reporter client again, right, we can kind of see how some of these reports, right, are just sort of more nuanced or more advanced implementations of all the concepts that we just showed. The idea of which, being to leverage that data, crunch it into analytics, and visualize it to tell you things like, whether or not you were in the tolerance or compliance range in your batch cycle, how efficient your equipment's performing over time. Are you meeting your EPA regulatory guidelines in your water plant, right? That kind of thing. So that's the reporting tool in itself, Excel Reporter, just in a very basic level. Now we'll just sort of take a look at two ways this information can be integrated with Win911 as part of the SmartSights bundle. So I'll kind of drag my iPad view onto the screen here, right? So whereas Stephen showed you the mobile phone layout of the Win911 app, this is what it looks like on a tablet. This is my iPad here, and we can see, right, all the different reports that we just looked at inside of Excel Reporter there. I can see what's happening in my discrete process. If an alarm happens, right, for example, such as in the iFix system here, right, if there's a problem with my bottling, or there's a problem with my reactor storage level, right, I can see that alarm's happening. I can view, I can acknowledge, I can check on my team and all the stuff that Revis was showing, but I can also get analysis behind what's happening in that reactor, right? So say in the reactor system here, if there is an alarm, I can see the history of all of the data leading up to that time here from the mobile app. For some reason, this is just taking a second to load here. It always happens when you're doing a live demo, right, folks? So I can see the trend data, right, leading up to the time of an alarm. We can think of the alarm as what's happening on the right side of the trend here. So say the product storage level went high, right? We can see what it has been behaving like over the past 15 minutes. We can see what the temperature of that tank has been doing over that time. We can see, has the batching system actually been filling out of that tank and incrementing? So we can see a lot more context behind just that the alarm is happening, right? Same thing with our GE juice mixing line, right? We can see that everything was looking pretty good up until a certain point in time, and everything sort of started to go haywire for a while, but then it did actually return back to normal. And more importantly, our pasteurizer did not fall outside of its sterilization range while any of that stuff was happening. So the idea here inside of the app, right, is that we're getting feedback, we're getting diagnostics, we're getting information to give context to alarms, and we're also getting dashboards and things to check up on high-level health of the system. Final thing that I'll show you here is the Win911 Control Center dashboards, right? This is again the supervisory control room view of the process. So think of Excel Reporter running every time that mixer process runs or that reactor process runs and producing a full audit report. We're just seeing a high-level sort of snippet, if you will, of what's happening inside of that process. So we can see alongside a high-level view of our alarms. We can see a high-level view of the process. If we double-click on any one of these widgets, we'll actually launch that detailed audit report directly as well. So we can drill down behind the information that's in the widgets, and we've got tons of out-of-box template layouts that are compatible with these widgets. So we can look at, again, the discrete processes. We can look at OEE and manufacturing. We can look at chemical levels inside of a water treatment process here. This probably will just take a second to load up. But the idea, again, behind this is just that this is a tool, right? Win911 is fundamentally a remote notification system, right? We're talking about the app, talking about getting phone calls, but this control center itself has sort of, itself has morphed the product, right, into a different use case, right? We can use this control center on several different locations inside of our plant. We can visualize what's happening in the process. We can visualize what's happening with the alarm system. We can view and acknowledge alarms, and we can even have this thing play alarms out to us audibly on the speakers. We can use it to bypass alarms during planned downtime maintenance and things like that. So this is just sort of a manager's tool to be able to get at and interact with process data without having a full HMI client deployed everywhere that this thing will need to go, for example. I think we're right at the end of our time here. Just to kind of recap, right, we have notifications for extending the alarm system, reports for extending the data inside your iFix Simplicity HMI SCADA historian. We're also able to bundle these two capabilities together to refactor and reslice the data to serve different stakeholders in the process. I know we're at time here, but if we have any questions from the audience, we can take a moment to address those right now. It looks like we don't have any questions coming in here, so I guess that works out timing wise. I guess I'd just like to thank everybody in the audience here for taking the time to attend this webinar. And if anyone does have any more questions or would like to discuss an application or get in contact with us for any reason, please do so through our website, smartsights.com. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, guys.